Hello there, health coaches. I'm super excited because today we're going to talk about a deep frustration that many of us have. It is so hard when we're trying to help a client, but their doctor is not on board with any of it. When they're not being helpful, when we want to be able to partner with a doctor and we need doctors who get it, and they don't always get it. Most of them, I'm going to just go out on a limb, say, don't get it. They don't understand what we're doing here or our vision of health and wellness. I don't know why it's so hard to find. It's not just for our clients, it is also for ourselves. So today you are going to hear from my friend and fellow health coach, Anthony Masiello, about a solution. And I'm going to introduce Anthony in just a minute. I also want to remind you all that our free 5-day jumpstart for health coaches is coming up in just a couple of weeks. So if you wanted to offer a bite-sized program in your practice, come learn how the pros do it. It's free to register. It's at healthcoachpower.com/jumpstart. And this episode is brought to you by Practice Better, a complete practice management software that many of us swear by. With Practice Better, you can automate administrative tasks and spend more time actually working with clients and doing the work that you came here to do. Get 30% off your first 3 months on any paid plan at healthcoachpower.com/PB. That stands for Practice Better. Plus, I've got a done-for-you kitchen clean-out program waiting to use with your clients right away. See show notes for details. All right, let's get into the episode. I'd like to introduce you to our guest, Anthony Masiello. Anthony, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michelle. It's wonderful to be here.
We are thrilled to have you. You guys, I met
Thanks.
Anthony back in June at the Health and Wellbeing Coaching Conference. I feel like we hit it off right away because we're
For
both
sure.
Jersey people.
Yes.
That has to be it.
Jersey people, health coaches, wanting to help others, out
Somewhat
there doing
techie,
our
although if you
thing.
watched me trying to get this streaming at the beginning of the episode, you would think I wasn't that techie at
You
all.
have a lot of buttons.
I have a lot of buttons. You know all about the
Yeah.
buttons. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got into this health coaching world and how
Yeah.
your background made you uniquely suited to the work that you're doing now?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Yeah. I didn't set out in the field of healthcare at all. Actually, I went to school for computer science. So there are a lot of buttons involved in my kind of education. But I got my first job at the National Institutes of Health working on the Human Genome Project. And it was fascinating to me because while it was very much a computer science job, I was there to do informatics, as what later became called bioinformatics. So basically computer work related to biology. But what happened was I was collaborating with a bunch of scientists, and these scientists were basically dedicating their entire careers. And with the amount that they work, you could almost say that they were dedicating their entire lives to really figuring out these components, these problems, our genetic makeup in a whole effort to help future generations to live better. And I just thought that was the coolest thing in the world. I had never really thought about that before. My dad sold bagels, my mom sold makeup. So like they were very much, those are kind of in the moment things, right? Like you want to look good today. Well, my mom can set you up. Or you're hungry, my dad will sell you a bagel. But I'm working with these scientists, and it really, so I continued doing my work, my computer science work, but I was really passionate about contributing towards helping, others and future generations. That was in Bethesda, Maryland. And then my wife wanted to move back to New Jersey. So I started looking, where am I going to work in New Jersey? And at that time, then pharmaceutical companies were starting to pay attention to genetics and genomic information because they were thinking about developing kind of individualized therapies or like drug routines that would work specifically for an individual based on their own genetic makeup. The problem is they don't have anyone who knew how to work with this kind of data because it was brand new to pharmaceuticals. So I was able to then take a job at Novartis Pharmaceuticals. And I thought that was even cooler because now instead of contributing towards these published articles that would help future scientists to do cool things, now I was going to a company that was actually making medications that was going to help people. Like, again, right now, like if you're sick, here's a medicine and this can make you better.
And I'll
right?
just interrupt for all of our health
Yeah.
coaches right now who are internally rolling their eyes at big pharma. Just wait for it.
Yeah, it's
Wait
coming.
for it.
So the irony, we'll go ahead and jump to it. So the irony is while I was working, I worked at Novartis for 17 years and I felt great about it for most of that time. Ironically, my wife, when she was pregnant with our second son, I went for a life insurance policy, a 20-year term life insurance policy. I was 33 years old and I was denied. It turned out that, even though I was passionate about helping others, I was in kind of the worst health of my life. In fact, I later spoke to my doctor and she explained that I was one of her sickest patients at the time. And, to be denied a 20-year term life insurance policy at age 33 is a pretty big blow, especially when I always wanted to be a dad. So I was looking forward to my future of raising my family and having fun with kids and eventually seeing them graduate high school and college and start families of their own and doing all of these things. And then to have a company who basically, I mean, this was not like a biased decision that they made. They took all of my health information, they plugged it into their computer, and it said bad bet, right? And I understood that, with my background in computer science and informatics. So the reason being is at the time, I weighed 360 pounds. I had a 54-inch waist. I was on medication for high blood pressure. I had high cholesterol. I had been diagnosed with sleep apnea. I had eczema on my fingers. I had psoriasis on the back of my neck on both sides. And I got frequent migraine headaches. And I guess any of those one things might not seem so terrible because lots of people I know have high cholesterol or high blood pressure or sleep apnea and all these things. But I guess the combination of all of that put together with my, the category I was in, my BMI was over 44. So I was more, morbidly obese. That was my BMI category. So when you put all that together, it was scary for me. So I knew I had to do something about it. So I did. And I just started Googling like crazy. And I found out about a whole food plant-based diet. And I found out about this thing that later became called lifestyle medicine. But it's basically how to address the root cause of these issues. I mean, I was already medicated, right? I was already getting the best of what the pharmaceutical industry had to offer me to get well, and it still wasn't good enough. So I started eating a whole food plant-based diet. I started exercising. And
I can hear the applause right now.
very,
Everyone
very
who's watching
purposefully.
on
Yes.
Facebook, Sharon saying such a transformation on your journey.
Awesome.
And even the future listeners of this podcast, I already hear all of your applause. We all feel the same way. It's very exciting. I'm sorry to
And I'm
interrupt. Go on.
grateful. Yeah.
Go on.
Thank you. So, I mean, because I guess the punchline is it turned out pretty well. So I started doing these things and I started losing weight very quickly. But even more importantly than losing the weight, I started getting off my medications and my blood pressure began to normalize and my cholesterol came down and my sleep apnea went away and I started getting less frequent headaches. And I think I was off all my medications and feeling well within about 8 months. And then it took a total of 20 months. I lost 160 pounds in 20 months. And I went from being one of my doctor's least healthy patients to one of her most healthy patients. And I went and I reapplied for the life insurance policy with the same exact company for the same exact policy 2 years later. And I got, and I thought I was just going to document to say, hey, I'm healthy now. And I thought they were going to say, okay, you're healthy now. Come back in 2 more years. Let's see if you can maintain it. But they didn't do that. They issued me the policy right away. And they put me in a preferred category, which means I probably don't need the insurance anymore. And but I didn't have to pay very much for it either. So I was very happy to take it. My wife was very, very happy to take it. So it is. And then I was feeling amazing, as we do, right? And we know that from helping our clients and many of us from helping ourselves. And then I went back to work. I mean, I was working this whole time, but now after my personal transformation, I would be walking around this campus in East Hanover, New Jersey. And it's a 500-acre campus with 10,000 people just working on this one site. It was 120 something thousand people working around the world. And I just kept thinking to myself, like 80% of the work that we're doing here is just to enable people not to take care of themselves. Like we make medications so people can think that they're in good shape, or they can think they get their numbers down and they think that they're going to live healthy, or they think that they're living well. But as we know, it's not always the case. And quality of life doesn't really follow when you're addressing these things with medication. The way it does is if you just address the root cause and kind of get rid of the conditions entirely, right?
This is reminding me, by the
yeah.
way, so much of when I went through my own health journey. And same, I was working in corporate America, I was working in big advertising. And there came a day when I was like having to sit down and work on the McDonald's account. And I was like, I don't
Yeah.
think I can do this anymore, right? There's like this inner conflict.
Exactly.
So, how did you get from there
So,
and where are
so what
you
am I going to
now?
do? What am I going to do? I'm a computer science guy who's been working in conventional healthcare for 25 years, right? So I said, well, and once, so even though I finished losing my weight and getting healthy in 2007, I didn't end up leaving Novartis until 2018. So there were 11 years that I was healthy me, still working there. But after work, I would just volunteer, and I would volunteer like crazy. I would share my testimonial. I would be an example for other doctors who wanted to help their patients know. I would go do chats and lunch and learns and anything I can do just on a volunteer basis to help others understand what's possible. And that even though it's a lot of work, it's totally 100% worth the effort that it requires. So then, but I wanted to do more of that, and I wanted to figure out how to do that professionally. So we went through some other changes at home, which kind of involved selling almost everything that we own and becoming what my wife was calling minimalists. She watched the Minimalist documentary, and she said, "Hey, if we just get rid of all this stuff, we won't have so much pressure, financial pressure in our lives." So we kind of freed that up. I went and I earned my health coaching certification, and became national board certified health and wellness, national board certified health and wellness coach. And I started doing some coaching, and it is very rewarding. And I mentioned I had a chance to leave Novartis in 2018. So I did that, and then I was coaching full time, and I was also looking for, I really, really loved helping people directly through coaching, but I wanted to figure out how am I going to help thousands of people or tens of thousands of people at the same time, which that would have to be indirectly because I don't have that kind of time. I don't think any of our coaches have that
Not
kind
very
of time.
scalable.
Yeah, exactly. It's incredibly rewarding, but you're right. It's not very scalable at that the way I was doing it. So I just started paying attention, and I would go to conferences and I would go to events all the time, and I noticed this pattern. We would see a doctor presenting on stage, and they would be talking about the scientific rationale and the medical benefits of living a healthy lifestyle and how you can reverse many chronic diseases that people think that once they get them, they have for the rest of their lives. And then they show some testimonials, stories like mine, stories like, yours and others, and they would show what's possible. And then they go to Q&A, and someone from the audience would raise their hand, and they would say, "Hello, my name is Anthony. I'm also suffering from high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol, heart disease, autoimmune conditions, lupus," whatever it was. And then they would say, "Where can I find a doctor who can help me?" And there was never really a good answer to that
Just
question.
crickets to that answer. How many times we have a client that's like, where can I find a doctor who will run these labs? Where can I find a doctor who will listen? I don't know. Especially if you're working, when in my own coaching business, I was working with clients, around the country, around the
Of
world
course,
even.
yeah,
So I might know someone in my local area, but if I had a client halfway on the other side of the country, that was no help. So this is a really recurring problem.
right. So I said, well, what can I do about that? I'm not a doctor, I'm not a physician, I can't help. But I knew a lot of doctors, and the doctors had a similar story, but on the opposite side. I knew so many doctors who felt like they were stuck in the conventional medical system, and they knew that they could help their patients in a better way, but they didn't really have the environment, or they didn't have the time that they needed with their patients to really help them to make the lifestyle changes. When they were seeing patients for short visits, they had to basically follow the best in class protocols for whatever treatment. So I came up with the idea of starting a telemedicine practice. And I knew some doctors who were licensed in multiple states. And I'm like, wow, if one doctor can be sitting in one location, but see patients in 3 or 4 or more states at a time, then we wouldn't need that many doctors to cover the entire country, and really to make sure that everyone has access to a doctor who practices, what we now know is called lifestyle medicine, and who can support patients in addressing the root cause of any of their health conditions, and to really, really, really get and feel well, and to create that environment in the body where the body can then heal itself over time.
Sounds like
So,
magic. Where are these doctors? How do we get them?
so that's what we did. That's what I did. I partnered with a couple of physicians in the beginning, and we launched in March of 2020. Unfortunately, we launched right with COVID, which wasn't my favorite time to launch. I mean, it wasn't necessarily terrible that we were doing telemedicine in that time, because at least we weren't trying to open a brick and mortar location where people were going to have to be out and about and coming in the doors. But it was still, I mean, it was challenging times. We were worried about how we were going to clean our groceries before we brought them into the house back
Right?
then, all of those things. Or how are we going to take care of our kids and get any work done while they're home from, while they're doing school from home and stuff. But it was very encouraging when I made one social media post, and I don't have a very large social media following, but the night that I finally got it all working, where it was ready for appointments, and I did a social media post at midnight or so when I was finally going to bed, and I woke up the next morning, and I had heard from 19, I think it was 19 or 20 people who wanted to be patients. And they were like, I've been looking for this. And I was like, wow, that was fantastic. And I heard from like 22 or 23 doctors who wanted to practice on the platform. And I was like, that was all the validation I needed to make to make me feel like, okay, this is going to be my contribution. This is now my life's work. So I started with a few doctors. We very quickly grew. We added more doctors, and the doctors got licensed in additional states. And by the end of 2020, we were able to, we had doctors available to see patients in every single one of the 50 US states for real licensed medical care from board certified physicians. And they were also able to do international consultations. So by that time, it means anyone on the planet who raises that hand and asks that question, where can I find a doctor? Can go now today, you can go to Love.Life Telehealth, and you can find a doctor who can see you and provide licensed medical care to patients anywhere in the 50 US states. And it's medical care that's completely aligned with what we teach our clients with in coaching, and how we want to support our clients to be their best selves. And there are doctors who will ask their patients not just about their problems, but also ask patients about their lifestyle. Where do they find joy? Where do they get their social connections from? Like, what are their relationships like? Because all of those things, as we know, come into play and help to create that kind of health and well-being.
That is amazing. And I have a couple of questions, but I just wanted to say it probably felt like such a blow when COVID came, when you were just launching. But on the other hand, people who may never have considered telehealth at all probably were much more open to it in that next year and two that followed. So maybe it was the perfect time.
You're exactly right. When we launched, we thought we had two obstacles. First, we were going to have to convince people that lifestyle medicine is real evidence-based medical care, real ways to treat problems. And the second was, we thought we were going to have to convince people that telemedicine is a real way to see a doctor. It wasn't just like a, kind of a weird thing or counseling or a one-off. And certainly COVID did erase that. And certainly over time, by the time a year later, everyone had done a telemedicine appointment, even with their family doctor they'd been seeing for years. So switching that over, that it did completely erase that obstacle for us.
The universe really
helpful.
had your back on this one, because
I
you're
know,
right.
I'm so
Even
grateful.
people who are like hesitant, just had to do it. We just had to do it at a certain point. So what you're saying, if I'm hearing you right, Anthony, is that any of us, for ourselves or for our clients, someone's looking for a doctor who's going to actually listen to them and perhaps be more of a partner with the health coach, can go find a doctor no matter where they live in the country or in the world, Is it any more complicated than that? I mean, do we just tell our
No.
clients to head over to your website and
Well,
they're gonna be able to hook it
of
up?
course it's complicated because it's still real licensed medical care. So it's very complicated.
Has to
And
be.
the biggest thing that we have to worry about is that you have to select a doctor who is licensed to see the client or ourselves in the state that we are in during the time of the appointment. So like right now, for example, I'm sitting in New Jersey. So if I go to Love.Life Telehealth, we have a little, if you click on appointments at the top, and then you just select your state. And if I say I'm in New Jersey, then it's going to show me which doctors are licensed to see patients in New Jersey. And right now there are two doctors. There is Dr. Kiri O'Connor, who's my doctor, and then there's Dr. Colin Zhu. And they're both licensed to see patients in New Jersey. So you choose one of them. Now, this is where it gets really complicated. Now, if I drive over to Pennsylvania, I can no longer see Dr. O'Connor or Dr. Zhu because I'm no longer in New Jersey.
Mm.
And now I have to see a doctor who's licensed in Pennsylvania. So, because if you think about it, like if it's an in-person facility, like if I'm driving to New York, then any doctor I see while I'm in New York needs to be licensed in New York, not just in New Jersey, because that's where I'm from. It matters where you are at the time that you're receiving medical care.
So
So
there's probably
if,
some catching up to do between various
yeah,
rules and regulations and the new technology, but somehow you're navigating all of this.
yeah, and really it's not that hard, but that's the biggest challenge. You just have to go and find a doctor who's licensed to care for you in the state that you're in at the time of the appointment. Now, it's good and bad because we do have other doctors who are available in New York. So if I wanted to see one of those doctors, I could literally just take my car across the the Hudson River there, and I could just park somewhere, or I could take the
Yeah.
train and go sit in a library or a coffee shop, and I could have my appointment from there with a New York doctor, because it doesn't matter where I live, it matters where I am while I'm receiving the medical care. So, but luckily we don't have to do that because we do have doctors who are available in all 50 states. So all anyone has to do is go to Love.Life Telehealth, or it's love.life/telehealth.
Love.life. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then you just click appointments at the top. You'll see a list of, we have 11 doctors, and you can just pick your state and it will show the doctors. And then you can click on their, learn more about that doctor. They have intro videos. You can learn about their philosophy, kind of many of them have their own personal stories as well. I mean, not too many people are in this field accidentally, right? I mean, us as coaches, them as physicians, like we're all here because we're incredibly passionate about wanting to help people in a better way. So you can learn more about them, and then you can click the button and schedule an appointment. It is patient pay, so it's not covered by insurance directly. We try to keep it as affordable as possible. It's $175 for a 30-minute appointment, and that's a full 30 minutes with your doctor. Or it's $350 for a 1 hour appointment, which is exactly the same rate. It's just double the time and double the cost. The doctors would always love to do a 1 hour first appointment, but they don't want to make that an obstacle for people, so they're happy to do a half-hour first appointment as well.
Yeah, I had gone through the steps yesterday,
Yeah.
and I was surprised that I could have booked an appointment for like this morning. It was just that
Right.
fast. Wasn't gonna have to wait weeks and weeks, and there were lots of appointments available. And I thought, I mean, talk about complexity. Adding insurance to the mix would be a whole
Yeah.
other thing. I'm sure it'll get there. It'll all get worked
Yeah,
out one of these days.
exactly. And it does work now as well. So if you have a flex spending account or you have a healthcare savings account, you're welcome to pay for that. That's fully accepted. That's no issue. And then even if you pay on a regular credit card out of pocket, that as soon as your appointment is over, you'll get what's called a super bill. And the super bill contains all the doctor's information, all of your diagnosis codes, and your treatment codes. And that super bill is ready for you to send into your insurance company for reimbursement. And of course, that's where it gets really complex, because then it depends on your deductible, it depends on your out-of-network benefits and all that. But we have several patients who are fully reimbursed. So they get all of their money back. And
Wow.
we have other patients who don't get anything back. It just really depends on your plan at that point. So we don't try to oversell that, but because we can't promise what anyone's going to get reimbursed, because again, it depends on your plan and your diagnosis codes. But it is something to consider. And even if people think of their first appointment as kind of a test on how it's going to work for them, then if they get reimbursed, then it's likely that their future appointments will be fully reimbursed as well.
It's very exciting stuff. So I want to ask, like, how can we as health coaches connect with these doctors? I mean, obviously we could book appointments for ourselves. We could
Yeah.
tell our clients about the service and they can book. But if we were wanting, maybe we have a particularly complicated issue going on with one of our clients, we wanted to be able to communicate directly with the doctor. Like, do you see that happening? Is there an
It
avenue
does
for this?
happen. It does happen sometime, and just in a kind of professional courtesy kind of way. What the questions that are the most appropriate to ask and get answered are, you know, is it likely that you would be able to help someone with, and then lace out the conditions, because the doctors don't want to give false hope and they don't want to make empty promises either. So they're not just looking to book as many appointments as possible. They're really looking to help as many people as they can. So if someone has a complex case and the doctor says, actually, I have not seen any evidence that lifestyle has influenced that directly, they will very honestly share that with you. So and if they do have evidence or they have personal experience of helping people to fully overcome the conditions that we ask about, then they will let you know that as well. So that's one way. And you can just write in the email address is telehealth@love.life, and it's on our contact page, or you can fill out the contact form and you can ask a question. The other thing is the doctors every 2 weeks, they do a Facebook live chat, and it's about a 40-minute chat, and they only prepare about 10 minutes worth of material. And it's usually on a topic, but then they go to freestyle Q&A. So they encourage everyone to just join, come in, and you can watch it on YouTube or Facebook. And if you type a question into the comments, they'll answer your questions there as well. So again, that's not medical care, but that's really helping to answer some of those general questions. Like, is there evidence that type 2 diabetes can be better managed with diet? Like, I think we all know the answer to that is yes, but they can go into a little more detail and they can help people to understand what to do in a very general sense. And
Okay, so that's like
yeah,
two ways that if we wanted to reach out, connect with doctor, potentially help a client find
yes.
someone that works for them. Does it ever go the other way? How, I mean, as a health coach yourself, do you have your doctor? Sharon over here wants to know how we can better connect with these practitioners so referrals go both ways.
Yeah, and they do. And what happens is, so write in to us and just ask or contact me. My email address is anthony.masiello@love.life. We can put that in the chat, or we can share that. We can figure out how to share that. And let's talk about it. I mean, the doctors recommend coaches to their clients all the time. And sometimes they know the coaches, or sometimes they have to just send them to some kind of a reference to say, go find yourself a health coach here. Look for someone who, maybe they would say, look for someone who's national board certified, or look for someone who has good qualifications. They might be a little bit more specific than that. Or we do a lot of work with like the company Mastering Diabetes, because they have health coaches that are working specifically on diabetes. And most patients who are making big lifestyle changes, who are diabetic on medication, need medical care to make those medication adjustments pretty quickly. I think hypertension is another one. Because when a coaching client is on medication for high blood pressure, you want to make sure that doesn't go too low, right? Because then they could get lightheaded or fall over and have an accident, because they've gotten themselves healthy and
Too
their
low.
medication hasn't been properly adjusted. So but just share information. I mean, we love meeting people who are like-minded, as that's how I think we kicked it off so well. And we love referring back and forth, because it's always about making sure that the patients get whatever the best care that they need.
See, this is what we need. We need people from our team. And by that, I mean people who understand that what you eat affects how you live and feel, and the people around you, like you said, your social life, your relationships, all the primary food, how that plays into. We need people from our team who have other skills
Right.
to go out and make the connection, because otherwise all of us health geeks, we just sit around in our own echo chamber, yelling into the void, like, why can't anybody see that they just need to whatever,
Right.
stop eating so
Right.
many Reese's peanut butter cups, and then
Right.
there's just not enough people that are helping us integrate with the rest of the world. So I love what you've done,
Thank
combining
you.
one really specialized skill set and passion of yours to create something new. What was that What was that like for you, or even just in
I mean,
retrospect?
it felt like everything fell into place because just like you said, it's so complementary to everything that I care about. It's like I can coach people, but then, and as coaches, we do this all the time, right? We tell people the things to ask and to say to their doctors to try to get their doctors on board. So we don't have to do that anymore, right? Now you can say, hey, make sure you tell your doctor that I sent them, and then they can say, hey, Coach Anthony sent me, and then the doctors will know, oh, Coach Anthony is a great coach, and maybe then they'll say, hey, can I get that contact info so I can send some of my other patients to back and forth. So it will work because we all find each other, right? Like we're out there in this thing that seems chaotic, and then it kind of self-organizes, and the next thing you know, all the right people are collaborating with each other, and everything starts to work really synergistically.
So for everybody listening, just think about that for yourself, because I know you have a previous career as an accountant or a previous career as a surgeon, or, whatever you're bringing to the table. Like, we need you. And who knew that we needed computer science majors? But boy, Anthony, you've done a good thing.
I didn't know. Thank you.
So I know
Thanks.
you
Yeah.
mentioned it a couple of times already, but can you just repeat one more time? Where can our listeners go to learn more about Love Life and connect with you and your doctors?
Yeah. So it's love.life/telehealth. There's no .com in there or anything like that. Or if you just go to love.life, you'll see our kind of parent company's homepage. And that just includes that we have a restaurant in Florida who serves very healthy food. We're opening up a new site in El Segundo, California, which is going to have doctors, coaches, fitness experts, and also a restaurant on site under one roof. So it's really going to be kind of holistic healthcare that's at one location. But the telehealth division is here to help serve patients who aren't near one of our locations as they start to pop up over time. We want to really be there. Our slogan is lifestyle medicine for everyone, or that's kind of our mission. And we just want to be accessible to people wherever they are.
Awesome. So everyone head over to love.life. Anthony, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. This was a blast.
Maybe we'll do it again another time and have some of your doctors on too.
I'm sure they would love to come on. And then you can ask them the hard questions, like how do we, what do we tell a patient who's dealing with, this and this and this condition? Because it's what they do all day long. And and believe me, it's what they love to talk about as well.
Oh, we love to nerd out like that.
Yeah.
Who here would love to have some of the Love Life telehealth doctors on the show where we can pick their brains and ask those questions? Say, hey, what about this case? What about that case?
Yeah.
That would be fun. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Let's
Okay.
do it. Yeah.
Before we go, I have to add on to the end here that this episode is sponsored by That Clean Life. It's an amazing resource for health coaches to create recipe books and help clients with meal planning on any type of diet. We love this service, and I know that you're going to love it too. So for a limited time, I have a discount to share. You can get 20% off your first 4 months when you join at healthcoachpower.com/TCL. That stands for That Clean Life. That's all for today, everyone. Thank you again, Anthony, and we'll see you next
Awesome.
week.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.